welcome to another video. This one is the DeVilbiss DV1s v the DeVilbiss SRI Pro Lite, or Pro Lite S as it's now called, which is exactly the same gun. The Pro Lite S is exactly the same gun as the SRI Pro Lite. It's just blue now instead of gold. So it's exactly the same gun. So if you're trying to look up what the equivalent is, that's what it is. So these two guns, I've had the SRI Pro Lite for 5 years, 6 years, something like that. Not this actual one, but in general, I've had the SRI Pro Lites for that long. And it's a really good all-round gun. If anybody's watched the channel and seen some of my videos on the SRI Pro Lite, they'll know that I think it's probably the best gun to do everything for one person with one gun, if that makes sense. So it's perfectly capable of doing larger panels, it's capable of doing the smaller stuff, it's capable of doing base coat, it's capable of doing clear coat. It will do primer if you want it to. You'd have to thin the primer down, but you know, I don't like putting primer through the main guns anyway. I keep a dedicated primer gun because most of my stuff is hybrid primer, not wet on wet primer. So you know, it's normally put the primer on and then prepare it afterwards. So yeah, the SRI Pro Lite I've always said is probably my favourite all-round minigun, price not being a worry within reason. So along comes the DV1s. Now I was really excited when the DV1s came out because it's one of those guns that, you know, it's got a really high price tag, and I thought, oh, it's going to be brilliant. And I'd heard quite good things about it. I deliberately hadn't watched any reviews before I used it. It was only whatever I read on, you know, social media or the internet or whatever, you know, wherever you got it from. It was just little murmurs that it was really good. So I did a review on its own, which I will put a link in the description. I did a review of the DV1s on its own, and it was a really good gun. It paints exceptionally well. It atomizes really fine, very fine. It does atomize finer than the SRI Pro Lite. My problem with it was the price tag, and although you get a 1.2, well, in this particular setup you get a 1.2 and a 1.0 tip. This is an S1 cap, by the way, so this is they're both supposed to be HVLP, but this is the less HVLP, so this uses slightly lower volume of air. But having said that, neither of them use loads of air because they're only miniguns, but they do use more air than the SRI Pro Lite. This is with the SRI Pro Lite in this video has got the TE5 cap. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So I did an individual review on it, and I was a little bit underwhelmed by the DV1s, and that was simply because it was so much more expensive. I was expecting it to be so much more better than the SRI Pro Lite, and it is better than the SRI Pro Lite, but it's only slightly better than the SRI Pro Lite. You know, if you're looking for the top finish with with less effort, then the DV1 is the one to go for rather than the SRI Pro Lite. And obviously you can afford it because it's about, in the UK, it's about 30 to 40% higher than the SRI Pro Lite. So it's a big chunk of money. And my argument when I first did the video of it on its own was that you could get like a couple of guns that would take you to the same price tag and have one exclusive for base and one exclusive for clear. But maybe I was losing a little bit of track in that this is a smart repair gun. Now, with me, lots of miniguns, I think that lots of miniguns, people at home may well use a minigun because they use less air, but they're also more compact, and most people aren't going to be doing like a full car at home. You know, you'll get the odd one, but most people have been doing little bits. So I like miniguns because I tend to do smaller stuff, and I think there's lots of miniguns out. Well, I know there's lots of miniguns out there like the SRI Pro Lite that's capable of doing lots of different stuff, from, as I say, the small stuff to the bigger stuff. And when I first tried the DV1s, I wasn't convinced, or well, I'm still not convinced, that it's capable of doing big panels. And when I say that, I don't mean you can't do a big panel with it. What I mean is it's actually very slow. It atomizes very finely, but for the same size tip as the SRI Pro Lite, and you'll see this in a second. When you see this, I set the pressure up, which I'll put the pressure of the guns on there anyway so you can see it. But you can see it's a shorter, wetter pattern. So what I originally said in my original video of the DV1s was that it feels very slow compared to the SRI Pro Lite. And certainly when you look at this video, it is, for this tank, which is about 200, and this is obviously base coat, about 220, 230 millilitres of base coat this takes, and about 200 to 210 millilitres of clear coat. When you look at the speed that it's doing it, base coat is not so relevant really, because it depends, how much you need on there. But the clear coat will be a figure that you can compare the two. And it's a little while ago since I actually timed it when I looked at the video, because this video was done a little while ago. It's between 10 and 12 seconds for a tank like this. So that's going to be like an average size car panel, like an average size door from top to bottom. Something like that, or a couple of small wings, something like that. So it's quite a bit of time really. And obviously if the DV1s is a smart repair gun for small areas, then it makes perfect sense that it's not particularly fast. It doesn't put out loads of material. And I guess I was overlooking that a bit, but what I was trying to get over to people that, if you're only going to buy one gun, and you're going to do small stuff all the time, the DV1s will be great, expensive but great. But the SRI Pro Lite is probably more of an all-rounder if you're doing lots of stuff, because when you come to the end, I've actually lost, I do a video normally of the two tanks, and I swapped phones recently, and for some reason I can't find the video. I'm presuming it's gone somewhere, because I used to keep my videos on an SD card inside the phone, and the new phone doesn't have space for an SD card, so I transferred it over and I can't find it. So what you've got is you've got a few pictures just to the side so that you could get a little bit of a comparison, but apologies for that. But I didn't want to ruin the rest of the video by not showing you the video, because there's plenty of information I can tell you as I am now that I think you'll find is relevant. But when you look at the finish between the two, the ultimate finish off the gun, which all my videos, whenever you see them, the finish is always off the gun. There's never any polishing, never anything done to it, because it's pointless really, because I'm trying to show you what the equipment does, and if you're going to flatten polish, then you can make anything look good really at the end of the day. So when you look at these two, the finish of these two, and you're going to have to rely mainly on me for this, the DV1s does put it on slightly better than the SRI Pro Lite. It's just a finer spray, so that the small particles that are hitting in this case a tank or whatever, are just slightly smaller. So it is slower. It's very expensive, but it's a very, very classy gun. Would I still recommend an SRI Pro Lite over the DV1s? I certainly would. If you're someone that can't afford 30 or 40% more on the price, then get yourself an SRI Pro Lite, because it's as good today as it was 2 years ago. I prefer the SRI Pro Lite, I think, as an all-round gun even now, simply because it, as I say, it's faster. It just seems to be a bit more universal. Whereas this is more of a spot repair gun. If I was going to do a car bumper, I don't normally do car stuff, but if I was going to do a car bumper or fender, as you say in the US, I'd do it for friends or my own cars or whatever's needed really. I would choose the SRI because it would give me the finish I need, and it'd just be quicker. In fact, I'll probably choose a full-size gun, but I'm talking about miniguns now with this. And it would just be quicker, and I can't see that the advantages the better finish is going to be that important for most people, because if you are using this for smart repairs, then you don't want a super flat finish, because it will look odd compared to the rest of the car. You know, when you look at some cars in different lights and the sun catches them, often they're quite a peely finish, or, you know, relatively peely finish. And it's pointless you having a super flat patch that you've you know done a spot repair or whatever, and having a super flat patch. So, as I say, if you're buying it for one-off things, smaller things, it's a cracking gun. If you're after a minigun that lays it super smooth, it certainly is that. But I still don't think it would come top of my miniguns at the moment, but if pure finish was in it. But if you start to add value for money, it wouldn't be, because it's just too expensive. And you know, you with the SRI, you only get one tip. So if you did want 2 tips, then you know you would be starting to look at another £70, which is about what, $100 US. So then you are starting to get nearer the price of this. Still not as dear as this, but you're starting to get nearer the price. But only you would know that, really, whether you wanted that. But as I say, it lays it really nice. It's the pressure I used for the DV1. It recommends 1.75 bar, and I found for base coat about 1.7 bar was enough, which is about 25 psi, 24-25 psi, and I left it at, I put it to 1.8, which is about 26 psi for the clear coat. It really doesn't need a lot of pressure. They've obviously designed it to use less pressure, and it seems to work admirably well for that. With that pressure. The SRI Pro Lite, I normally like about 2 bar, 2.1 bar. Here I use 2 bar, and it works supremely well. As I say, it's a wetter pattern, so you'll see if you look back and time the amount of time it takes for each one to do a clear coat, which is this stage now, the SRI is faster by a fair bit. And as I say, I quite like that, and I like the wetter pattern as well. But there is no denying that the DV1s does give a really good finish. The other thing I noticed is that the fan on the DV1s, it only has like a small amount of adjustment. If you put it all the way in and then take it out 1.5, it doesn't change after 1.5. So it's a very small amount of adjustment. Not that it's a problem really, I guess, but I just thought I'd mention it, because some people were saying, when I did the last video, some people were saying, oh, you want to try the fan at 2 or 2.5 out, because I use it on full fan and just adjusted the fluid. But I tried bringing the fan in to see if it would make it a smaller, wetter pattern, which to an extent it does, but it still doesn't put out more material. So for me, I ended up using it on full fan and full fluid, and just took it slowly, because it didn't seem, you'll see me mucking about with it, but it didn't seem to make much of a difference really. But yeah, as I say, people were saying, oh, you need the fan on 2 or 2.5, but it doesn't make any difference after just over 1.5. It didn't seem to anyway. I don't know whether that's a particular trait of mine, which would show poor quality then if it wasn't everybody else's. But it seems to go from full fan. You can see it's a wide fan when it's going, so it seems to go from full fan to spot in about 1.5 turns. So when people are saying 2 or 2.5 turns out, after 1.5 it doesn't make any difference. So, you know, I guess people think what they think, I guess. But yes, a very good smart repair gun. I've recently got, while I'm narrating this video was done about a month and a half ago. Temperature was about 8 degrees, so it's not particularly warm. I am warming the tanks up in between each stage, which I obviously haven't included because the video's got quite long anyway. But yeah, it was quite cold, so the finish is good, but you would probably get a better finish if you could do it in warmer conditions, but it is what it is. I can't really warm my workshop up because it's so big. it's about 26 foot by 14 foot, so it's, you know, it's quite a big lump to warm up, and it just doesn't retain the heat. And I certainly don't really want heat to ground on this phone. But yeah, all I can say is that the SRI Pro Lite, in my opinion, would still be a better gun for most people, and most of that is down to the price, really. But yeah, I mean, it is, we are where we are with these things. Everything seems to be going up in price. All the, you know, when the original DV1s, not the S, the DV1s came out, they seem to put a huge price tag on it. I think they're all, with the big guns, I mean, chasing the SATA, aren't they? Because, you know, people will pay the money if they know it's going to be a really, really good gun. And I guess people do. Anyway, what I was going to say is I've very recently got an Ego 190, which is a Walcom minigun, and I've done an unboxing video because I've actually got a Carbonio 360 as well. So I've done an unboxing video, and I'll upload that pretty soon after this one goes up. But I've been playing with it a little bit. I won't sort of go into great detail because I haven't had enough time to play with it. But that's another gun that seems to be quite good. Whether it's better than the DV1s, yeah, I don't know yet. For ultimate finish, I really don't know yet. But as I say, I have got one, and I know a lot of people are asking me about that gun. And obviously, if I haven't got one, I can't tell you about it. But yeah, I recently had a big birthday, so the family got together and bought me some guns. So this will be the result. But as I say, I'm rambling on a bit here, just filling in the time, I guess. But I hope you enjoyed the video. As I say, I'm ashamed about the results at the end, but I would highly recommend, if you're after what I consider at the moment to be the best gun for base coat. I mean, it lays base coat of green, the DV1s, but it's also superbly good at clear coat. And there is no doubt, as I say, that it doesn't lays it. Sorry, the SRI Pro Lite doesn't lay it quite as flat as the DV1s. But a lot of people will flatten and polish their paintwork anyway. If it's, you know, one-off stuff or bike stuff, or, you know, show stuff or whatever, people want it as flat as they can get it. So at the end of the day, you wouldn't notice the difference between the SRI. I suppose all it would do with the DV1 is just save you a little bit of time. But certainly the Devilbiss are keeping the SRI in their range, and you can see why, because there's a place for both, because this is much cheaper. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you've managed to put up with my ramblings. And this is all I've got, which was originally for Instagram, these photos. But yeah, that's all I had. So I apologize for that. All right, guys, thanks for watching once more. Bye-bye.